condominium. You must create some narrative that is capable to be it must be a sustainable dream. Obviously, I'm an Obama fan, so but we are talking about something like that. And number three, I would not, quite honestly, and on that front I sort of agree with Cassini, and I will probably scandalize my British friends. I would dare that it's not completely immoral to also sort of think to some sort of a way out for this guy and his political system. Some sort of law on painting, so that he goes out of the scene, and we can go back to talk about serious matters. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Francesco. I'm going to. Just going to ask for some response now from the other panelists on this earthquake question. Anybody want to come in?
Well, I'll come in if you like. I'm shocked that Francesco wants to give Berlusconi a way out. Let me record that caused an earthquake at this end of the table. This is like providing a villa for Saddam Hussein. No, I shouldn't raise that. But second, I wonder whether that would work really. Does he want a way out in that sense? What's very interesting about him is, yes, one, he doesn't have an ideology, so he's not an ideological figure, but he's a systemic figure. He's part of a system that preserves his power. Okay, one threat to it is the magistracy, and you give him a way out from that. But he also is intoxicated by power, and he's surrounded by people who want to use his power. As you say, he's not as a single person the problem, but a whole structure that feeds off him is the problem. So the question is, how do you deal with that? All of the people who basically are using him as well. So why would he want to go out? But secondly, all the people who are using him, why would they want to lose that glue that they have? Would be my question. And perhaps to add to that, I absolutely agree with Francesco that the thing that the foreign press and foreign readers need to understand is that the left are complicit, and particularly in doing deals now over the immunity and all of that. D'Alema, when he comes to London in a couple of weeks' time, you should ask him, why are you doing deals with this man over this? Why aren't you confronting him? And doing deals over the conflict of interest law. Basically, they've kept him in power.
Thanks, Bill. There's one question I wanted to ask Francesco. You mentioned Veltroni was right in his Veltroni being the last leader of the opposition to fight an election against Berlusconi, Walter Veltroni. He was right not to mention Berlusconi by name and to try and avoid too much identification on the person of Berlusconi. But he had a very low vote in the polls, and also if he doesn't mention the name Berlusconi, then, and it's partly really what Bill was saying, then the whole question of conflicts of interest and cult of illegality also doesn't get discussed. I'm wondering whether this strategy, you're saying it's a strategy that the centre-left should adopt, but I'm seeing it as a strategy that doesn't work. I don't know what other people think about that. Daniele.
I think a lot of things have been raised, so I will touch upon many of them quickly. The first one is I think that the left is even more at fault, apart from the issue of finding a way out for him. But I think the main issue is the centre left has been in government for almost as much as he has since 1994, and a legislation on the conflict of interest hasn't been passed, and this is, I think, a huge issue that simply cannot be explained by members of the left in any convincing way.
Well, it can. You can't be explained in an honest way.
No, not on television. You can find explanations for it. Yeah, you can find explanations for it, but how do you address your own supporters and explain that in a convincing manner? Second, there are very few people who switch from centre-right to centre-left and vice versa in Italy. And as a provocation, we could say, if we look at general elections since 1994, Berlusconi has won all of them. Because in 1996 he has lost because the Lega Nord decided to stand for the election on its own. Otherwise, it would have won. Although, of course, you never know what would happen if you can, in theory, should never simply add the votes of people who don't stand together. But the Lega Nord got 10% of the votes, and that's why Prodi got in. In 2006, he was wrong in saying that Prodi didn't have a legitimacy to be prime minister, but the political message of the election was very clear. After 5 years of Berlusconi being prime minister, and despite the fact that there were clear signs that among the middle classes who had sent him to where he was, there was a lot of discontent about, for instance, his inability to lower the taxation. Despite all that, despite him having been in power for 5 years, the centre-left was expected to win by a very large margin. It won in the lower chamber by a tiny number of votes, and in fact in the Senate, the centre-right got many more votes than the centre-left. So, as I'm saying, this doesn't in any way mean that Prodi wasn't legitimate because there was an electoral system and he got more votes and so on and so forth. But the political message was very clear. He almost managed to win even the 2006 election. Going back to what he is, I think he is the glue not just of the Popolo della Libertà, but importantly, he is the glue of the centre-right. He's the glue of the Popolo della Libertà. This is obvious because this is the party that brings together from neo-fascists inspired by Alessandro Mussolini all the way to Christian Democrats such as Rotondi who is in government. So it's a very, very heterogeneous party if we talk in terms of variety of positions, ideologies, values. It is very diverse. I think there are some key values that bring together not just people who vote for Popolo della Libertà, but in general people who support the centre-right. And it's easier to point out these values than it is to point out what values bring together those who support the Partito Democratico. This is perhaps one of the main problems of the PD. But it is a very heterogeneous party. It is demonstrated very clearly that you can destroy it and recreate it at will when responding to the creation of the PD, but also finding a very efficient way to get rid of the internal opposition of the UDC. He created Popolo della Libertà overnight. And some politicians of what is now Popolo della Libertà went on television and admitted very openly that we didn't know he was going to do this. Presti Giacomo said so on national television. We went and consulted, but it's a good idea. Now, it's since 1994 that within the centre-right they talk about creating a unitary party. There have been discussions for many years. There have been conferences. They've invited members of the UDC, members of